Hey everyone, it's Kat. So for this video, I want to talk about AAs or alternate advancements. Now, this is going to be a very general video, so I'm just going to talk about the very broad things about AAs and a couple things that all of us should look at when we're speccing our tunes. But it's not going to be class specific. It's not going to be, okay, this is how you spec a Shadow Knight or a Wizard or anything like that. So this is going to be, like I said, a very kind of introductory type of video towards AAs. Okay, so first thing we want to do when talking about AAs is let's go ahead and pull up our AAs and see what we have going on. I'm going to go to my alternate advancement button, and it gives us several different options here on the left. We can look at our character development, we can look at the alternate advancement tab, and of course we have our trade skill and our prestige tabs. Now, we already did look at the trade skill and trade skill prestige tabs in the trade skill video I did a few weeks ago. So as far as those AA specs and which ones come in handy, which ones you want to pair with your adventure specs, go check out that other video that I did. For this time we're going to focus on the adventure side, and we can look at the character development too. That actually has both an adventure and a crafting aspect to it. So this character tab here, and it's usually the first one you end on, you're going to get several different tabs. This first one is going to be your race, your focus effect, which is going to be spells, and then your actual class training. Okay, so which is also your class spells is also going to be under your training here too. So first off is your race tab. Now each race will get specific bonuses that you can spec for. So the ones for Fae are different from dwarves, are different from humans, are different from elves, and so on. So for here, you just want to pick what are the best possible attributes to complement my class. If you're doing this, if this is mostly an adventure tune, if this is a tune though that you only do crafting with, like I have several tunes that I don't adventure with, I don't know how to play those adventure classes, but I use them a lot for crafting. So you can then, if you go down to the bottom row here, this is going to be like all your trade skills. Okay, so that is going to be helpful if this is mostly a trade skill tune. But as far as the other stuff goes, like I said, you can pick and choose. It just depends on which race you're playing. This particular tune is a free blood, so she is going to get certain things she's going to get automatically that they're just granted towards the free bloods, but other things I will have to decide which ones are going to be important. So I think, like for example, you do have the option of putting more AAs, or these aren't really AA points, but you do get a limited amount of points for this tab, is that I can put points into either helping my speed while I'm stealthing or going invisible versus poisons, or sometimes it's speed in here, sometimes it'll help with your, this one says with casting speed, sometimes it helps with mitigation or intelligence or whatever it is. Obviously, if this is a tune you adventure with, you want to focus on stuff like hit points, so like your health, your stamina. You want to focus on potency, crit bonus, casting speed, anything like that that you would also want to, say, increase if you're reforging, or look for in gear as to comparing which is better or not. Those are the same things you're going to want to look for in here. And a lot of times you'll get all the good stuff and then you'll have points left over, and then you can put it in stuff like speed or crafting or whatever you may want or need. Alright, so then we have our focus effects and our class training. Now, what is the deal with these guys and what do they do for us? Well, every 9 levels, every 10 levels or so, you're going to be able to go into these tabs and click on a specific spell. And basically, this gives you an upgrade. So, like with your class training tab here, if I go all the way, see I get a spell at 14, 24, 34. Now, these are spells that you naturally have. But what this does here is the one that you click, the one that you decide on, you get that automatically to Grandmaster. Okay, so it's basically a free Grandmaster spell every 10 levels. Okay, so let's move on to our AA tab. Now again, if you're 110, you should have your 350 alternate advancement points ready to go, and you can spend them however you'd like. But what we want to do is we want to focus on the three tabs here that pretty much everybody has. So your first two are going to be like for my Shadow Knight, it's Crusader and Shadow Knight. That's her specific class as well as her archetype. But everybody, regardless of class, has shadows, has heroics, and has their dragon tabs. So we'll start off with shadows. And what you want to make sure you do is, I think people have a tendency when they first start doing their AAs is that they tend to spend a lot of points in the first several tabs and they don't leave it enough when they get to Shadow or Heroic, and especially not Dragon. So Dragon tab is super important. You want to make sure you save enough points for that. A lot of times you just want to spend enough points in these pages to get down to the bottom spells. A lot of times those are really good spells that you want, and kind of pick and choose and really be particular about what you're investing your points in. So, and when you do this, you're going to want to make sure that you get into the build. So right now I'm not in build mode. I can't change anything if I wanted to, but if I wanted to change stuff around, I go down to this little scroll looking thing on this button at the bottom. So I click that, and that's going to put me into build mode. So as you'll see here, it's got save becomes bright red, means I can save it if I want to, and I can change stuff around. So go to these different tabs, and what you'll notice here is on the far right here, these are the very last things that I put points into. So if I scroll up, I see, okay, this is the order that I spent my points in. So if I want to like take points away from this right here, what I would have to do is click on this over on the right hand side. So that will give me the option to remove, to roll back, or cancel. So if I wanted to go back and like take off this entire page, I can maybe go all the way back to this one. That was probably the first one that I spec'd for up here, and then roll it all the way back. And then when I save, I just need to type in a name to save it under. And this will cause my tune then to recommit all her AAs, and she will be completely debuffed, and I'll go through the whole thing again with, you know, all the suffixes and titles that it's going to add, and it does that little animation then for the fighter where it looks like an earthquake. But let's look at shadows. So again, you want to spend enough points to get the bottom, and a lot of this is really dependent on your class, of what your role is in the group. So obviously if you're the healer, then you need to spec with, you know, anything that's going to increase your ability to heal your group, that's going to increase your ability to keep yourself alive, things like that. But for most of us, in general, what we're going to want out of the AAs more than anything is probably health, is probably our hit points. We want to get our HP up. If you're someone that's new or returning, you might be looking at your hit points and thinking, wow, you know, 30, 40 million seems like a whole lot. And it is, but most tunes at 110 are well north of 1,000,000 hit points. And if you're less than that, you aren't going to survive very long in a lot of the dungeons, because a lot of the newer heroic zones are designed with the idea that you guys have gone through your AAs and that you've maxed out your possible HP, that you have this much bigger hit point pool. So when you're going through these tabs, those are things you want to keep an eye on. You also want to keep an eye on anything that increases your base anything. So your base health, your base stamina, your base potency, or your base damage to your spells. So think about it like this. So if you get a spell here and it says, oh, this increases your potency 100. Well, I mean, what is normal potency for doing like T1 heroics? If you're 110, you're talking about somewhere between 60 to 70,000 potency. So what's 100 potency compared to that? Like, not very much, right? But if it increases your base potency, then that's actually going to be a much bigger help to you. Same thing with hit points, right? So if you're trying to get up over 100 million hit points, you know, spending a lot of your AA points in something that does 1,000 HP, it's really not going to be that beneficial. But something that does base or does percentage of your potency or your hit points, those are things you want to spend spend your points in. So like on this top line here, and we all basically have the same top line here, is I put my points into the max health because it does increase it by a percentage. It's not a lot, but it will help me with my overall. Once I do a lot of these percentages increases, it will add up to be a noticeable difference. And then back down to the bottom. So on my heroics tab is with heroics and with dragon tab is there's a lot of similarities between the different classes. So everyone pretty much has these same top 2 rows. Okay, so we're all going to have these here, even if they're called different names, they're going to be very, very similar in their effect. So here you'll have, attribute prowess. So this isn't going to increase your attributes like wisdom, intelligence, strength, agility. So this one on the right, spirit and body. So it's going to increase your power and your health, again, by a percentage. Down here we have stuff for potency, we have crit bonus. Of course, the one that I don't put any points into is reuse. Most of us have way more reuse than we need. We usually end up going over cap on reuse without even trying and just getting like the basic gear. But I do want to put enough points in here to get down to the bottom. So what I choose here depends on my class, depends on what my strengths and my weaknesses of my toon are. And then lastly on this this button here, we have the dragon tab. So dragon tab is going to be the same if you're in the same archetype, if you're in the same major group. So all mages will basically have very, very similar, if not identical, dragon pages here. So my necromancer and my wizard have the same exact spec on their dragon page. And this column right here, they have it exactly the same. Now, it's going to be different spells and different results for my tank here because fighters will have different names for it and they'll have slightly different functions, but this is still the most important column because this is where a lot of your health, your stamina, and your HP will come from. So this one right here, this will increase defensive stance for fighters, your max health. Now, if you have Epic 2.0, like for Shadow Knights, like this toon does, it's maybe not as important because I can keep her in either stance indefinitely and she still gets all the benefits from it. So she doesn't really spend a lot of time in the defensive stance anymore. Helps with taunts, helps with overall health, helps with defensive mitigation. And again, I just want to get down to the bottom. Is the most important thing for this toon is the Draconic Shout. So this is a massive heal that she has. So if she ever gets into trouble, I can always hit Draconic Shout and make a comeback. So with my mages, with both my necro and my wizard, it's Undeath. So that is a ward. It gives you basically a freebie. It's, you were about to die, but this ward bounces you back to full health. So you get like a one freebie for mages, which is awesome. So you always want to make sure if you're playing a mage, they're spec'd with Undeath. And then it's something very similar with scouts and I believe and with healers too. So there are other good things on your dragon page, other good things you want, a lot of things that will increase your base abilities of different spells. So make sure you save points for your dragon page. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at our prestige button now. So when I go over here to my prestige, it's going to pull up 2 more additional tabs. So I can either do prestige or I can do, like for the students, just Shadow Knight, but it's basically your class tab. So you'll hear a lot of talk on the forums, especially under the class sections, where they're talking about should you spec right side or left side depending on your class. And there's generally a pretty good debate going on. You'll usually, depending on the class, have either it's overwhelmingly one or there's a good debate going on between. Whichever side you decide to go, right or left, you want to make sure that when you do that is be really careful about how you spend your points. Like you're probably going to want to get down to the bottom here, but you do not want to spend all of your points just on this one side. Okay, you do want to have enough points left over so that you can get down to this bottom or this, I guess this is more middle, like this middle AA spec over here on the opposite side. Okay, and you may want to put some in the middle. It depends on what's available to you. But why do you want to make sure you get down on this side? Because this is a bit of a conversion here. So these two go together. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so if you look on this side, I spec left. So this increases my fervor. Okay, and it says for every 35 crit bonus, okay, I am going to gain extra health. Okay, so what does that mean? It means I want as much crit bonus as possible. Hey, because the more crit bonus I get, the more health I get. So where can I get more crit bonus? Oh, that's right, this little speck over here. That's going to give me more crit bonus. So there are other places in your AA spec to get crit bonus, but make sure that you get this one as well. Right, and then when I go over here to my class tab, under my prestige, this is one of those things where you do want to get down to the bottom. Generally, the spells on the bottom of this page are really, really helpful, and you're very limited. So you're only going to be able to put 25 points in this entire page. So you're not going to be able to get everything you want here, because it does have a lot of really good stuff. But you'll see that this first row here is basically going to be the same regardless of what class you play. So whether you're a mage, a scout, a healer, like we all have to make these choices, whether you want to get more health, whether you want to get more crit bonus, or whether you want to get more fervor. So we all want as much of all of these three things as we can. And generally what you'll find is there's some distribution here, whether it's 8-2-8 or 6-4-6 or, or 6-6-6 or whatever it is that you guys do it as, is that there's some distribution here that's going to get you guys the most you can out of this row. Okay, so that is pretty much all I wanted to cover for you guys in this video. I'm not going to be doing, like you do have other tabs to go back to that are class specific. I'm not going to be doing specific videos on those. One, just because I don't know all the different classes well enough to do a video on each of those. Like, I know the classes that I play pretty well, which would be like Shadow Knight. I'm pretty average at that. It's more of an alt for me, but Wizard, Necromancer, I know those pretty well. But I don't play any of the other classes. Like, I don't know which spells you guys use, which ones are important. I don't play healers, so I don't feel comfortable giving you guys advice on those classes specifically on how to spec those. What you can do, and I suggested in a previous video, is that you can go to the EQ2U.com, formerly EQ2Wire.com. You can look up other players' AA specs in game. I would say make sure that you're looking up someone that is current, someone that is still playing, and preferably someone that you know is a really good player and that you know personally, so that you can actually ask them questions. So like we talked about last time, it was you don't know why people spec the way they do if you don't know them and you can't ask them. So for all you know, they regularly play with the same group, they have dedicated healers, they have power feed, they have buffs, they have everything they could need, and they can just go crazy with their AA specs and very slanted into a particular direction that suits that group. Like, you may not have all those benefits, you may not have all those players, so don't necessarily just pick an AA spec randomly off the web. Just do a little research, and hopefully it's someone that you know and that you can actually ask why they spec that. Or at the very least, look at several different options. Look at a lot of people that play that class and kind of see where they all tend to agree, like these are all important. Okay? Like, there is a lot of debate. Like, just for my example, so you see a lot on the forums, people talking about wizards and how wizards spec, and there are a lot of people that feel very strongly that wizards shouldn't spec for health, that they're these glass cannons, right? Is that they should be able to do a ton of DPS, but who cares if they survive or not, because the healers, that's the healer's job, the healer's going to save them. Well, not everybody plays in a group where you expect to have a healer. I think pretty much for the last year and a half, like I had set groups and I had friends, or set half groups anyway, is that we would basically get several people that we play with all the time, but none of them were healers. And sometimes we would get lucky and we would find a healer, and if we were really extremely lucky, they were a good healer and they could, actually do their job. But mostly we had to make do without it. So I needed to spec my wizard more like a tank, to keep her alive, and so that I could actually help in the zones, because you can't kill anything, you can't DPS when you're dead. So, and my spec was based off of someone that I actually respect a lot, who's a really excellent player. EQ2 been playing for years, is one of like the top wizards on any server that he plays on. And he tanked very specky. I keep messing that up. He kept his wizard spec very tanky as well. But then I knew who he played with. I could talk to him. I could ask him questions, and I played with a lot of the same people that he did. So I felt comfortable doing that and looking at his spec and following his a lot. All right, but what I don't want you guys to do is don't get discouraged by that. And when you try this, right? When you set out to do your first AA spec, don't think that it's the end, right? Because what you're going to want to do is go ahead and spec how you think is good, live with it, and then test it out. Like, use your advanced compact tractor. So ACT, we talked about that in the last video. Something that you can download that you can actually look at, well, how did these changes actually affect my spells? How did this affect my stats? So what were the results, and can you make it better? Because you can always go back and tweak it. Like, this is something you're going to be fiddling with a while. This isn't something you're just going to get right on the first try. So hopefully you'll see some improvements when you do this. You'll watch your HP go up, maybe even your fervor and your potency and your crit bonus. Hopefully, you spec this so that those all go up as well. You can actually see the difference, but then it's something that you'll come back to. And as you learn more about your tunes, how to play your tunes, and which spells really benefit you, you can always go back and change it. Okay, so hopefully this helps, guys. Good luck with your A's.